Welcome to Cycling Fashion Week, the world's only podcast about cycling fashion, culture, style, aesthetics, straight top tubes, no drop seat stays, feet. There's more feet talk today, everybody. Get excited.
Strap your Birkenstocks in.
We have a very special guest on the podcast today, Alonso Tal, who, if you're not familiar with him, he is a designer, a creative, a photographer. He's many things. He is the co-founder of the Concept CNCP team. If you're familiar with them, you've probably seen one of their kits before on Instagram because they're usually pretty awesome. And he has a pretty extensive history in cycling, working with brands like Assos, now Cervelo, and I don't want to give away the whole interview. Anyway, he's basically a creative force in the cycling industry, I would say, and he's on the podcast today to talk a bit about that, but also a new collection he's done, a new iteration of what he calls his OMAC collection with Endo Customs. And he's going to be on the podcast today talking about that and a bit of his history in the industry, and also dropping some pretty hot takes that might even run counter to some of our deeply held beliefs on the podcast. So, yeah, it's a great interview, and we look forward to sharing that with you in just a little bit. But first, I will welcome my co-host for today, which is Jake is back once again. And Jake.
Hey, thanks for having me. The crowd goes wild. You guys can't keep me away. I'm here to talk about what we're here to talk about, which is Warren's feet. So I'm locked in. I'm ready to go. I'm excited. But we've got a little Rate Your Bike on the menu. We've got a little Canal. We've got a little Chameleon. We've got it all today. So I'm stoked to be back. Still mourning the loss of Alex and Tony. One day they'll be back, right? We'll hear them.
Tony was back last episode, though we called it a mini episode. It's a mini-sode. I mean,
yeah. Rode with him. Been riding with him. He's great on a ride. He's a world-class hater. You ride anywhere with him, he'll give you all his takes. So if you get a chance to ride with him, which some of us did, but I'll let Warren tease that.
Yeah, well, we should say that our last episode, we teased the Attaquer Time Attack Challenge group ride that we were hosting in Toronto, and that has since happened. And myself, Tony, Jake, and Skyler of the Cycling Fashion Week family were all on that ride.
Notably missing two members. One, ironically enough, Italian Alex was in Italy, so that's a legitimate excuse. The other, Nick Awanishin, who apparently was getting his fancy new bicycle ready, and it wasn't ready in time. So I'm just going to throw him under the bus real quick for that. But it is an exciting bike, and I think we might be talking about that maybe down the road. I don't know if we want to spoil what that bicycle is, or if we want to keep that under wraps.
No, I'm going to save my hate for it.
Damn. It's like that.
No. Okay. I just have opinions on the builder.
You have opinions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, French Alex was also notably absent, and he was in crappy France, otherwise known as Quebec.
Wow. Does this play well in France, by the way? Do we get a lot of listeners in France?
You know what? I don't think so. Double check.
Well, there you go.
We do get a lot in Europe, but I don't think it is localized to France.
Well, it's beautiful there. Went to the south of France last year. It was a grazing. It was also amazing.
Anyway, the Attaquer Cycling Fashion Week group ride went really well. Thank you to everyone who came out. It was a very good turnout. Everyone was, nice. The vibes were good. No one was riding sketchy or weird. No one rode a fixed gear or tri-bars. Like, we spent many minutes bemoaning last episode with the possibility of happening. That didn't happen. And it ended at Wallace Espresso, Jake and I's team sponsor, but also call him friend of the podcast, for some nice coffee, courtesy of Attaquer. And Tony and I were sporting some new Attaquer kit. Got some nice comments on the shade of blue that I was wearing, which is it's their cobalt blue race kit on the Attaquer site if you want to have a look. Yeah, thanks again to Attaquer for inviting us, and seriously, thanks to everyone for showing up. Organizing group rides is always weird. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable as a ride leader usually, but yeah, no, I think it went pretty well. I think it speaks to the quality of Toronto cycling that people are like, this is a great route, and I'm like, this is an ugly route, but it is a good route.
Yeah, it's this little slice of our local morning training grounds. I
Yeah,
think we've all done that route hundreds of times, and I think
yeah.
to get a compliment on that route goes, "Oh yeah, I guess cycling in Toronto isn't as bad as we always think it is."
I do want to give a shout out to, I would say, a local cyclist, but he moved to Hamilton, Sean, who was a big part of the bow bikes on wheels rides that started that route. And when he saw that we were calling it the legendary historic bow route, he said, "I'm historic," and he is, because he's old and a dad. I think Sean listens, so he'll maybe like that. But anyway, shout out to Sean. That's kind of it. The ride went well. We posted some photos on our Instagram. I was going to make a reel, but I didn't shoot enough videos. So
I got one video that me and Tony talked at great lengths about, which is the iconic from inside the coffee shop to outside the coffee shop where everyone's conversing, and there's this voyeuristic elegance to that. So I captured that, and I was very proud of myself. So
apparently that is the cliche influencer photo angle now, is shooting from inside the coffee shop, but shooting the cyclists sitting outside. I haven't really noticed, but I believe it.
yeah, I think we should do that at a Tim Hortons where we all have doubles, and
Sounds like a great marketing campaign. The next great marketing campaign for the Steve Tilford CX racing team. That is an extremely niche joke that only
welcome
a handful.
to cyclocross
Yeah,
corner, folks.
yeah.
Oh boy.
Cyclocross is coming. My first race is in 3 days, so we gotta get ready. It's an extremely early start in Ontario because who knows.
Well, and by the time this podcast come out, Warren will be a winner, a cyclocross winner. As we all know in the pod, he's been training hard. He's been going on his own little training rides where he needs to do very specific workouts that were given to him by an AI generated cat. And this AI generated cat will bring him to glory. So we all congratulate you ahead of time. And in hindsight, whenever this podcast comes out, congratulations for winning.
It's gonna make some great heckling for when I do just as badly this year, despite having done a training plan through Fast Cat, hence the AI cat, which they do have an AI coach, and up until recently literally was an image of a tiger, which
I wonder why they changed that.
I don't know. I wish they'd kept it. It was kind of hilarious. But anyway, so yeah, my AI cat coach, it's gonna be good.
Congrats.
Anyway, with that, let's just get right into the interview with Alonso Tal, because it's better. It's more interesting than AI cat. All right. It's now time for our main segment of today's episode. We are very excited to welcome today's guest. He is a creative, a designer, a cyclist. He's the co-founder of the Concept Team, as we talked about in the intro. I mean, there's a lot of things I think we could describe him, which we'll get into over the course of this interview. But welcome to Cycling Fashion Week, Alonso Tal.
Hey, what's up, good people?
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I think this is going to be a good one.
We think so too. Yeah. I mean, we usually start by asking our guests how you got into cycling, whatever form you want to define that as.
Wow. I think there's like two starts, right? There's always like a young kid era where you get your first bike. My mom bought me a green Huffy for Christmas one year. Please do not, maybe like 96 or 97 or something like that. And then I think the bike that kind of like kicked it off for me was a Fuji Track Classic, maybe, from a performance bike, which is like a local retailer here in Los Angeles and maybe throughout the states here back in 2006. Yeah, that was pretty much my introduction into bikes. I probably never looked back after that. Yeah.
On your website, though, it does. I was reading your bio on there, and it said you started with a passion for fashion, which led to photography in the outdoor world. Did that come before cycling, like passion for fashion, or is
They started around the same, right? I took an internship with a fashion company in like my senior year of high school, and I needed to
okay?
get around town faster without having a car, and that really kind of like begun everything.
Mm-hmm.
I would say they're the same because while I was in school studying fashion and merchandising, I ended up getting a job with, in the industry I wanted. So I took it right in the middle of college, dropped out, and I had worked with Clay Footwear as a showroom
Yeah.
manager all the way up to like a lead creative there over the span of like 8 years. So I worked in independent men's footwear for a very long time. I would say along the lines of the sneaker era, premium fashion, business casual kind of stuff there. Some really cool stuff that we've done over the years. And that was kind of my entryway into shooting products photography, always keeping the site updated and shooting like physical lookbooks and getting the models and that whole experience. So I didn't shoot like the hot girls growing up in cars and street photography. It was just straight to, product photography and shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I would literally take a handful of shoes and walk around like beautiful neighborhoods and shoot on people's like porch and steps and stuff like that, and like go to museums and shoot. And that was like pretty much my life. I would spend like 2 to 3 days just in certain parts of Los Angeles on my bike with a DSLR and a backpack full of shoes. And I would just go around town shooting. Instead of like setting up, for days on end to shoot, 1 or 2 products, I would just kind of like knock out multiple ones throughout, the week, because we were really trying to feed the beast of like social media, blogs, and websites and stuff at that time. So that was the kickoff for fashion. So that was my writing as well.
Were you like also kind of, I don't know how to say it other than, were you into like the fashion of cycling then, or were you kind of like, not that there were, it was obviously a bit of a different era?
The fashion, like I really didn't have a kit until I met Endo Customs. He ended up having worked as a creative and product developer at Rock Racing at the time, which was like a pro
Oh,
team
yeah.
back in the
Yeah,
early
yeah.
2000s, right? So that was, and Bobby Endo, ended up starting Endo Customs. And that's where we kind of met. I had bought that jersey as my first jersey for like a local alley cat race. And at that time, we were wearing cutoff jeans, jorts, and belts and stuff, and kind of slim Adidas shoes to like fit into toe cages and straps like that. We were not like any fashion kind of nistas out there. I would send you guys a picture. Maybe I'll post it or something. If it's like a bio, you'll have some good laughs for sure. But
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So speaking of Bobby Endo and Endo Customs, is that buying that jersey, meeting him, what led to you two founding the concept team back in, I think it was 2015?
yeah, 2015. Like all things, it does. You build up to start in 2015. So we really kind of started in 2014. We just got all of our eggs into one place, or we herded enough cats, as we would say, calling racers, to make a team, right? And how that came about, I would say, between myself, Bobby Endo, and Justin Williams, I think we just wanted to see, more of our culture individually, from the Japanese culture to like the racing culture that Justin grew up in, to like this fixed gear culture that was like super free and kind of intertwined with streetwear culture, which is in that whole sneaker phenomenon, and like how we could bridge those gaps with, design, thoughtfulness, and kind of eliminating kind of the status quo of team and kind of rebuilding that archetype with, minimal designs and not trying to go after all these big sponsors. If we wanted it, we were all going to buy like Cannondale, and we were all going to wear this black and white, and we were all going to try to be as uniform as possible to represent the essence of a team. But there was going to be some fun street stuff. Like we would ride our track bikes from LA to San Diego, or like from LA to like Interbike at the time, Las Vegas, and kind of do alley cats and ride at night and like hang out and actually be friends. So instead of like coffee and tea and stuff in there during the day, we were like having beers and riding into the late hours, because that's where like all the working class folks were, and kind of like the the fixed gear scene was very much night oriented at the time, and you could ride for, miles on miles and miles of just city and pick up people along the way. So it was very heavy community that really altered like what that would look like. And, 10 years later, we pivot, we always looked at cycling like what does it need and tried to fill that void versus trying to attack what was like really hot. So you could see some pivots even from like criterium into gravel, where it's just like, who the heck wants to do that? And like me and another guy, Greg on the team, just going up to Grinduro because we were sponsored by Cannondale at the time and they were going to be there. And we're like, what are we doing? We literally did our first gravel race with like having the bikes maybe 2 weeks in advance. And then maybe I think I still was running tubes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we were always, because of fixed gear, we were always willing to explore different avenues and disciplines of it. And we had raced cross before. So this just seemed like the road bike version of cross and a bit technical. So it didn't seem like anything to us just to go, if we had the bikes, we were going to go do it. And I think that's still our attitude, if I'm, answering your question.
Now that gravel's like kind of on trend, do you think you're going to pivot again to something? I don't even know what it would be.
Like I mentioned, we've kind of started kicking off like these longer tours where it's just like we leave like a Thursday night or like a very, very early Friday morning and bump out like 80 to 100 miles out the city. Our friend Sean Martin and Alvin Escajeda has been like doing some crazy long rides. I think he just finished the Transcontinental not too long ago. So we've always had like one outlier that's like going after it. And then recently I've got a new spark of like shredding on these local tempo and like kind of fast rides. So like throwing my hat in the ring all this year for a few local like bigger races, criterium wise, has been super fun. Like I was just like, oh man, I do miss this. Like it was like going to the gym, like where's your muscles at? And like it sucked. It really did suck getting back. I was like maybe 20 pounds overweight, almost like 188 to 190 sometimes. I'm like, who is this guy? This is not bad. Like I'm tired of unbuckling my belt just to sit down or like have to guess about my jean size. Like who makes 33? I'm really like a 32. So I just got back into the saddle of it and it made me feel young again. Even just 36, age can really get onto you, but it made me feel super young again. Like I was like in that 28, like kind of like super prime. And I've been chasing like that, like secretly for the last 6 months. And it's been like really good to get back in shape and like kind of really be interested in bikes in a whole nother level.
Nice. I have a quick question here, just to pivot, because me and Warren are big cyclocross racers, big fans of cyclocross. You mentioned having raced cyclocross, which we're stoked on. We talk a lot about fixed gear and its community element and how it's grown and feeling very grassroots. And I would say that cyclocross has a very similar feel. Would you conflate the two? I mean, I know they're different communities per se, but like I feel the people who get into cross, like there's this infatuation with it, kind of like there is fixed gear riding. What was your first experiences with cyclocross?
Oh yeah, my first race was, you ready for this? It was on a track bike, a Mazzi Cortello, which
Sweet.
It was green. It was toes, like straps and all. It was a fixed gear race. Went and did the course just because I was there, and then got kind of semi-hooked. Ended up getting a few other bikes. I think it was like a Specialized Crooks to like an All City something
Nice.
to like a really, really great bike, which was, I think it was like the Cannondale Super 6 X Evo times 20 high mile, whatever they call them.
Yeah, a lot of acronyms on that one.
Yeah. Something like really, really sick and like really being into it. It was that community. It was there. It was centralized. I think when you go to like criterium races, you're still separated by the race in the middle, but it was there where you could barbecue, hang out, bring the kids, have some beer, hand ups.
Yeah.
And I was used to that. The same folk within that community, that fixed gear community, was a part of that. So it made it easier to kind of have it, approach it, right? In my community, it's really like kind of fast guys. So you don't really like get a lot of African-American, like kind of dirt riders. You're going to have your like quintessential, like awesome, amazing guys like Elliot Jackson, who's like a wizard on the bike in terms of mountain bike and dirt stuff. But like on the outdoor stuff, not until recently have you seen that really, that insurgence. So I always knew that like, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here in the right way. I'm going to participate like organically. I'm not going to like, well, this is not like this because I just started. I'm just going to like absorb it all. And it was a warm community. It was cool. Like I would be like, hey, you want a hot dog? Like, not really. Actually, I'm so hungry. I rode here. It's been like 5 hours on my bike. Like, and then you sit down and then you're having a beer and you have some new friends and then you're jonesing to go back and kind of get that feeling, get that dopamine where you're like, I'm racing, I'm in a race. Like if I fall, I can kind of just get back up, right? And that was
100%.
super fun, right? And heckling, who does not like heckling people
Oh
that
my
are like
gosh.
slightly
Best part.
better than you? Yeah. Like, oh, you're a dad? Yeah, come on, dad. Like that was really fun. So
Totally. Yeah, you've got the kids heckling their parents, you've got the parents heckling their kids. It's like it's full circle.
yeah, it was good vibes. I've been talking locally about like just trying to host a cross event for the little SoCal Cross Series here in Los Angeles, and just to have
Cool.
our team just kind of like spark that stoked and like bring out the barbecue pits, bring out some friends who do like vegan tacos, 100 tacos, and like a bunch of stuff, and kind of like have like a mini like swap meet. I remember those. Those were always fun. Just
Oh
bring your
yeah.
little dirty handlebars and some bar tape you never sewed and some bag bars and stuff, and just have like I would call it a bike hootenanny, whatever. It's like a southern term, But
Nice.
I
Nice.
miss those days, and it makes everyone relatable. See them in semi-regular clothes.
Yeah. And cross has a way of kind of neutralizing, like if you're a crit racer, if you're a road cyclist, it exposes those vulnerabilities. And I think it's fun in cycling to be vulnerable. There's very few places if you got a hot Instagram profile and you think you're tough. I mean, cross is a way of bringing everyone just back to having fun on a bike, like when we were kids,
Yeah, brands should make influencers race cross in order to like have their
There you go.
sponsorship.
You
So
heard it
people
here
love
first.
that.
Exactly.
You heard it here
Part
first, people.
of the brand deal.
Yeah, I think if to make them kind of go out, that is someone's going to kill me for that. We're going to call cyclocross gravel crits now.
Honestly, that would probably get more people into it. I mean, here in
What are
Toronto,
we doing? What are we just
yeah,
doing?
it would probably get more people out to them actually if we just started calling them gravel crits.
There will be crashes. Yeah.
That's it. And embrace it.
Back to the concept team. I think the first time I heard about the team, someone had just sent me the Instagram account because it was just because of the kit of the team, the design. I forget what year it was, to be honest. It was, I don't know, 2017, 2018. Anyway, and Concepts had a lot of standout kits over the years. And a note for our listeners, some of which you can still actually find and possibly buy on the Endo Customs site. And I found that like none of the two designs ever really looked the same, but they still managed to look different from the average team kit, I would say. Were you behind the design of all those, or was you and Bobby? And I just asked because just wondering like if it's hard to find new ways to design a kit that looks different from kind of the average team kits that are out there year after year.
That's such a good question. I am behind them, but Bobby Endo really kind of spearheads them all. He's the North Star on that side of the things.
Right.
I'll definitely have a look and try to figure out like what's not being like too mundane or just stand out and try to like make it like cool. But I think the inspiration for us has always been like where we're going. Like you would see like some one-off kits with like Alvin and like our friend Chaz Christensen going to Morocco, and we would like look at Moroccan towels and rugs and things and then figure out how to like incorporate that into it. Like one year we were doing like Manhattan Beach, and that was like our target race for like some of our sponsors. And we made like a beach and sand and water kit. So we really kind of like draw in the inspiration of where we're going, right? Like even for Toasted Tough back in the days, it was like a big oil field. So we used like this crazy oil pattern and stuff. And it was so funny because later that year, like Supreme had came out with like this oil thingy that's going on with this artist. I totally forgot. But yeah, it was always about like where we're going. And then we kind of have like our standard like block sections of like where we need to put our support. Those kind of change, but the logo will kind of modify depending on the times and like what we want to like kind of put forth for like what we're vibing on. There's been some of the years have been like very muted, and sometimes they've been very poppy, but they all kind of start with the kind of the wireframe that we have for our kits, and then we kind of like add different things. And we're just now, after 10 years, evolving into like other logos and using it. It was just so important to kind of keep it very minimalistic. And it was almost like if you're not giving us money, you're not going to be on this kit. And then we found like some really great relationships, like the one we have with like Cervello and like Easton and those folks in Selka. Like they just become like really good people that's backed us. So we're like, okay, now you're part of the fam for at least these next 2 years until we decide we need to depart. And we're never scared of that either. It was just like, yeah, we're probably gonna keep your guys' frames. We're not gonna like go chasing that. We must have a frame sponsor. Like it doesn't make us. So we could always say what we want, say what we mean, and be respectful and kind of move on. Like we cherish the space and the community so much. That's like any one of us doing anything crazy to like mess up, the vibe of the team is like immediately X from our like friendship. But like we just hold ourselves accountable. So on that front, like we'll always kind of like stick to our roots, and we don't feel like we're actually trying. It's like, oh, we like that, cool. Like there's never been a real vote because like, oh, that's what we're rocking because quote unquote our leaders said this is sick, so we're rocking it. So I don't know.
That sort of leads us, I think, naturally to part of the reason why we wanted to have you on now, which is you've just put out a new collection with Endo Customs, OMAC 24, which our listeners can check out on the Endo Customs website, and we'll definitely throw some photos on our Instagram and all that. But in the release about the collection, it's described as a reaction to, I love this description, by the way. It's a reaction to the suffocating blandness that has taken over the cycling apparel industry, the stifling sameness that has limited creativity, and the riders have been forced to conform to an identity they never asked for. So I think we'd love to hear more on that because we love to talk about the sameness and the blandness.
That came out pretty hot, dude. Wow.
We're the Hot Take Podcast.
That's bars.
This is.
Oh man, I was definitely burning the candles that night, huh?
I love it. No, it's great.
No, it's still fitting for the times, even though, like I say all the time, there's tons of great things happening in this space. I just felt like the cycling apparel space was a bit stuffy, right? Like it lacked depth and like that pure creativity where fun and storytelling was at the base of it and not just a core offering. I think I got like super frustrated earlier in the season where everyone was dropping their new stuff and it was just all core colors. It was just like flooding my emails and I got like, what the heck is going on? So I did this like little fun thing online where I asked a bunch of people like what they thought about the cycling industry, who was doing it good, who was doing it bad. There were some new ones. There were some really, really bad ones. There was some ones like heavy pedal that was just doing everything and they had a great price and people who served them were like doing well. And I took a back seat. I was like, that's awesome. $100 kit, like an $80 kit. That's awesome. Like an acronym kit for $250. That's not that awesome. So I just kind of like, I don't have any true skin in the game. And I think maybe after releasing this, maybe I feel like a designer that could like see what's missing in the industry and try to fill that void versus being a keyboard warrior underneath someone's comments. That's just not my jam. And I've been a social media manager before and you can get a lot of gray hairs. Yeah, I just wanted to see a change. I wanted to see like a little spark. So I strategically kind of designed these kits to kind of pair well with a lot of different brands. That's why you don't see like a lot of logos or like a lot of like short repeats. It's just very, very minimal. Obviously, you want to know that it's Endo Customs. Obviously, it's just a mark of like OMAC, which is camo backwards. It's very like plain and straight there in your face, but it's very vibrant and very cool and very splashy. So you can kind of still have your core stuff, not get rid of it, and kind of buy one or two pieces from this small like little underground collection and have fun. And I think that's where I found cycling when I first found Dustin Klein in San Francisco, right? I see that low bike back there and it just brings me back of just like he's making stuff. He's just making stuff and I would buy one-offs in San Francisco for Quick City Rumble and we'll just be vibing and having that community and like look at him now, like he's like one of my favorite dudes. And that's where that inspiration comes from. Those seeds maybe 10 years later still kind of have germinated into something that here's that void that I think I need to change. Maybe a handful of people think they need to change and I'm doing it. It's very small, but I don't know. I've seen some crazy things happen where Costelli's like, hey, we're going to make this dude our creative director. And then I'll be very happy, but it may not. I might just keep doing it again. Or it may have a chance to kind of bounce around and do camo at Giro or do camo at Colnago. It's not going to like ever die because it's not a real brand. It's just a project that I could kick off and stop and say crazy one-liners like that or two-liners like that and shake things up. Going to be like gravel crits. And who said that?
You're just changing all of cycling marketing in this interview right now. It's happening.
Yeah, people are taking notes for sure.
Oh man, we're in so much trouble.
We had Dustin on the podcast a year or two ago, and he definitely, I feel like he said far more inflammatory things than you are right now. So
that's my guy.
Out of curiosity, do you have a favorite piece in the collection, whether it's the design or just something you find yourself using? Or
Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time on this kit, and when you look at it, you can probably tell why. Just altering the color so that they had that more fall vibe. The multi one kit was like really fun to go for that checkered pattern where it's meshing all these different patterns and disruption like together to kind of make something that's still kind of visible. So it's almost like a multi camo, but kind of digital camo at the same time, but it's like a traditional checkered square. I just had a blast putting them together, coloring them, kind of getting them aligned and kind of, when I say getting them aligned, I mean, I kind of put them each into the squares, and sometimes they were not good and sometimes they overlap, or sometimes I didn't make, a group of all the patterns into that square, right? So it was a learning curve, and I finally nailed it, sent it over to my guy, and he laid it on the pattern and said, "Hey, I think this is really sick." And I looked at it, I was like, "Damn, this is really sick." So that's my cue for approval. Damn, this is really sick.
That's a good seal of approval.
It's literally, yeah. And it's so fun to look at. I went on a group ride this morning and people were like, "Yeah, that's sick." And that's yeah, stop touching me, but cool.
Yeah, boundaries a little bit.
Along with the designs, you sent over some lifestyle photos of people wearing the kit, and the style of the photos also, I would say, break from at least right now, the traditional cycling kit marketing, which I'm sure we're all aware of. We talk about this a lot on the podcast, that how just like every cycling kit marketing is just like people riding in a beautiful location and in the mountains and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the OMAC collection, you've got a guy who's wearing a jersey with jorts. There's people riding BMX bikes. There's, I think, somebody just going out for a run in a tech mountain bike tee. I mean, I guess it's just a tech tee. I'll call it a mountain bike because we're a cycling podcast.
The mountain bike runner's tee, yeah, sure.
It's all the same. So was it the sort of the same idea with those photos, like having a different approach, or does it reflect how you experience cycling personally? It kind of sounds like it based on what you've said so far.
Yeah, I think you're spot on in terms of my personal experience with cycling. I'm an advocate and a lover of all disciplines of cycling. So I don't really see one over the other. Once again, we go back to what I felt was missing, and that kind of like that free freedom, right? Like I see thousands of kids wheeling these bikes, and I got my friend Kyle like, "Hey, you want a tech tee?" Like, "Yeah, I want a tech tee." I was like, "Cool, we're gonna go shoot." And we literally, unbeknownst to me, because I shot them on different days, we all shot kind of in our wash, like our bike path wash. During the summer, it dries up, so we can kind of go into it. And some of the skaters have concave, like some concrete and stuff. And we just had a jam session. The young guy that you guys see on the fixed gear bike just reminds me of me, just being like super young, like I think he's like 19, maybe even 20, maybe 21, because I think he did have a beer. But he just reminds me of me, right? Like I have a bike and I'm out there, and he lives like maybe close to 30 miles south of LA. And he's like, "Yeah, I want to come. Like, I'll be in your shoot." And I was like, "Sure, kid." And then he was like, "Yo, I'm riding with your riders back up to LA. Like, I'm actually coming." I was like, "Well, me and my friend Kyle are going to go shoot, over here with some OMAC." So I just wanted a space for just cycling in general and its different disciplines and its different subgenres to be represented, especially like the fixed gear one. I hadn't seen it in a while unless it was on some like Rafa City collection, and kudos to them, right? Like, and they went that far, or, I haven't seen it in a while, and I hadn't seen like the big 26er BMX bikes get any love, and that's what was around me, and it was addictive, like what I'm about. I don't run much, but I just wanted that to be represented in there too. Like all my like cycling friends run too. So it was a shirt for that. Like people love running in like the tech tee, and I just wanted to have it represented in a different way versus like the Instagram stylistic, like mountains and motion blur and all that good stuff. Like that's not what this was about. This was about like filling some of the voids that are missing there, and that had already been overdone. So there was no point. I wouldn't even feel good doing it. It would feel like a job. Nothing that I've done thus far felt like a job, except for posting all the time. Jeez.
As our listeners know all too well, we haven't been posting a lot lately because it feels like a job. So yeah, I hear you there.
We talked about suffocating blandness, of course. What isn't suffocating blandness right now? Like any brands or any releases, Alonso, that you've seen recently that have kind of maybe either inspired you or just that you've liked?
Wow. Okay, let's do it this way. Ossos has the best bibs.
Ooh.
Team Dream has the best tops.
Ooh,
and Rafa is still my North Star.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. They've done a lot for cycling culture, and I will never forget that. So they deserve their placement, and they deserve some of the respect. So you look shocked.
We've said many times on this podcast that the show wouldn't exist without Rafa. It's what many of us, like the other hosts who aren't on right now, that we all sort of first got interested in good kit because of Rafa.
And shout out to Team Dream as well. A few of us were there in April. We were in Pasadena, and we did the basket ride on a Wednesday night, and all those folks there at the shop were great. And like just a breath of fresh air in the cycling industry. Yeah. As someone who works in bike retail, it can become, very monotonous and stuffy. And it was like, wow, these folks are doing something different. So yeah, I appreciate that shout out. But sorry, Warren, you were saying Rafa. I
think, Jake, you look shocked about Rafa because we sort of felt like they'd lost their way a little bit in recent years with some of the designs coming out. But no, I like it. I like the take because, again, like they really did none of these, like, whatever you want to call them, influencer brands or whatever, would really exist without Rafa. So I think that's a totally fair call.
I'm glad you said it, Warren. Glad you said it.
Can you tell us a bit about the cycling scene in California? We had Cody from Luft Los Angeles on a little while ago, and he told us a bit about the scene. But I've been to LA and California, but I've actually never ridden my bike there. So I'm always curious of what the cycling scene's actually like there. Is it, because part of me that thinks it's sort of like, yeah, I am going to see guys in jerseys and jorts, but then there's also, I kind of think I'm just going to see a bunch of roadies trying to be like Phil Gaiman or something, so I'm just curious what the scene's like, or at least the scene maybe that you're a part of, or if there's different scenes or cliques or whatever.
Yeah, there's definitely different scenes for kind of almost every discipline that you're riding, and kind of like even there's levels there from like racers or just people who love it as an activity. Here in Los Angeles, or just a SoCal kind of county, Los Angeles County, it's really grown into something special over the years. At every corner of the city and kind of the county, there's a group for any type of rider, right? From racers to, like gravel people, like there's just like basket bikes, group rides, casual, women's only rides, film rides. There's something for everyone. Mm-hmm. And it's happening every week. I joined, this morning, I woke up at I don't even know how I did this to myself. Woke up at 5:00 in the morning, and then you ride into your local park, Griffith Park, and we meet at 6:30, and you go and hustle so hard on one of these climbs, and you go do the whole thing. It's 24 miles, and you go get coffee, and you're back home by 8:30. And it was just wow, what am I doing? This is like a whirlpool. You feel so energized for the day. Mm-hmm. Or you can, like you guys mentioned earlier, it could be a Wednesday. I want to step outside of the house. There's a ride starting at 6:30. That's go to the mountain, have a few brews, have some water, Gatorade, and then ride back home. Just enough to see the stars, just enough to kind of stretch out the legs and build up an appetite, burn off some calories. There's something, and there's dirt riding, beachfront, or you can go and get your freak on one of the fast rides around the Rose Bowl, or even in the Bay Area. There's tons of rides, and it's a very nurturing and kind of, I would say, interesting community, because it's not all connected, oddly. I have the gift of kind of being in the industry and being a racer and being a designer and have my own team and having some friends and fans. So I get a chance to see them in a different kind of aspects. But it's a really cool these days. Even if they're bike riding shit, like they're handling, they'll grow into it. And some of them have been riding for like 2 years, 3 years, or started in the pandemic, and they're growing into like that like, oh my god, I'm a cyclist moment. It's happening and it's good. I think it's super healthy. So yeah, and I think that's where some of that creativity is really like needed, where people feel inspired by cycling to start their own like little sub brands to offer something to the cycling space versus kind of the big dogs, because the big dogs don't really do it do it really well on the lower ground level, right? We need kind of those dust and climbs and like those luffs, and people like starting those like little grassroots things. It shouldn't be like one for every 30 miles at this point. It could almost be one for every 10 miles, but neither here or there.
I hate the wording of this question, but what's next for you? But you've got, it seems like you got a lot going on. Like I with the concept of the OMAC, you're photographer, designer, creative. Like, are there any new projects you're working on or coming up that you can talk about now, or just? Obviously, we're going to tell people to follow you on Instagram, but
yeah, I think I'm always doing something. There's some things in the pipeline with a few athletes that are coming out with some brands. I can't even mention either of them just now. But I have been working on like a product care line for cycling or endurance sport for the last couple of years, I would say, most like 2 years on and off. So hoping to launch that in 2025. I could probably talk to you guys a little bit about it afterwards. But yeah, just moving forward, I'm kind of in that mode where if it excites me, I can kind of get the energy and go after it. So who knows?
So now we just want to do, I think this will be fun with you, but rapid fire questions where it's just, we ask you a quick question and you give a really simple few word answer. Yeah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee?
Oh, coffee in the morning, beer in the evening.
White or black shoes?
Black.
White or black socks?
Black.
Nice. Okay.
I have like black Air Force One energy, it seems. So amazing. That's what I wore this morning. It's kind of hilarious. I pointed it out in my stories. It's pretty funny.
Wait, Air Force Ones, like with cleats on the bottom? Or?
Dude, I wish. No, I'm not that cool. Just some Shimano S-Fires with black socks. Now, the Selka socks, shameless plug, are some of my favorite right now. So,
ooh. Yeah. I almost bought a pair recently.
You should. They're really good.
Have to. Yeah. Track bike or gear?
Track bike.
Quick.
Love it.
Film or digital?
Film.
Nice.
It's been so long learning how to use those things in my early career, so there's no way in hell I'm giving them up. Yeah, like I have a Leica M6, which is probably like right there.
Oh, awesome!
I just love looking at it, so it's just sexy little fun.
Photography's a hobby of mine, so I get it. Best or actually favorite coffee shop in LA?
Collage on York in Highland Park.
I pretend I know where that is, but I'll check it out next time.
We'll go there next time we're in LA, Warren.
It's next to LA's Kyle Kelly's new shop. Sean Wolf.
Best riding spot in LA?
Griffith Park. Can't go wrong.
What about the best place you've ever ridden anywhere?
Ooh, best place I've ever ridden anywhere. Oh my gosh. I had a great time for a fixed gear event in Puerto Rico some time ago. I think maybe 2014 for an event called Fíjate Fix. It was, I would say, legendary weekend, but it was amazing. It was awesome. Just ride track bikes, no shirt, just shorts and just life. Second favorite, Barcelona. So, which are all on track bikes. Yeah. I'll throw in a roadie one for you. I would probably say Lugano, Switzerland for the road bike.
Nice. Okay. Barcelona, riding in the city on track bikes?
Yes. I was there for Red Hood Crit. It was awesome.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was in Barcelona earlier this year en route to Girona, and we didn't rent bikes when we were there, but it seemed like it'd be a bit hectic riding around.
Right up my alley.
That's part of the allure, I feel.
I mean, you're in LA, so I guess, I could, right. Now, one thing we also like to give our guests the opportunity of is the end of our show, we we have a segment called Into the Canal where we either take something we don't like and we throw it into the canal, or we take something we do like and we give it a chameleon, which is a reference to Chameleon Oud, which is a climb in the city of Montreal. Just for your reference, one of our co-hosts is French from Montreal. That's where this came from. Anyway, but do you have anything you want a canal or chameleon? It could be like, and it's not exclusive to kid. It could be cycling culture.
Oh yeah, I got
Yeah.
something I want to throw in the canal.
Yeah.
White shoes and white socks. Throw them in the canal.
Ooh, oh, that is a hot
Wow.
take. All right.
Everyone just started to panic.
Told you we're gonna get canceled. Glad we're at the end. This is great.
Can I ask why? I'm just curious.
Because everyone's doing it, probably.
Yeah, Jake said it best. There's other combos that are like way better. You didn't have to try.
Tony and I were talking actually just the other day on a ride about how it's fun to have more than like white or black shoes. Like for example, my low in the background here is like a navy blue. So I have like a navy blue shoes that matched the frame, and that almost bought a pair of silver shoes the other day. Just, I don't know.
I like that for you.
The S-Fires come in like a iridescent, like kind of something.
Yeah,
Those look pretty nice too.
I have about maybe close to 5 shoes currently. Most of them are black and white. 2 black S-Fires, 1 white.
Yeah.
Some race shoes that are like that kind of iridescent blue from S-Fires. And I've been loving the Physique thin toes that a buddy got over to me. So they're black and white, so I can like, don't get me wrong, I wear white socks sometimes if it's feeling cool. But like, oh man, when I see it on like 8 people out of 10, it just ugh, you knew that was good. Did you guys know that was happening? Like, you just like, I'm gonna do. Oh, I know this is like, oh, this is happening. I'm gonna do that. I couldn't do it. I don't know. Maybe because I was a skateboarder, so when I like had to go to school and wear a uniform, it really sucked. I wanted to wear like the blind T-shirt and like the cool stuff. So
I do usually wear white shoes, but I like to mix up the sock color sometime. And it's funny, I've like gotten grief for that, like from like our listeners. I'll like post a photo.
Shut up. Like, so you typed it, dude. Like, what?
Or like, even now people have gotten so granular that not only does the color of the sock need to match, but like you got to have the S-Fire socks with the S-Fire shoes now. Like, we're at that level. It's pretty wild.
I love a fun sock. I wish more brands did not only fun colors, but like fun designs.
See, this is why like great brands like Athletic or have been, trapped over because it has to like go through this like weird uniform thing. It's like, no, like let's just be all out there. Let's be weird like hippies and just like support and rock everything. But that's just me.
Can't lie, I still love the white sock, white shoe look, but I think you've convinced me to just give it up. Maybe
we're canceled. Yeah, no one's gonna respect us anymore, dude.
Yeah, maybe. Can I actually you said you have 5 pairs of shoes. Is that 5 across road or gravel or just for road?
Oh wow, dang, that was just for road. Yeah, then probably I have like close to 7.
The reason I asked that is I've been given grief recently in the podcast chat for owning 6 pairs, it was 7 pairs of cycling shoes total, like 3 for road, 3 for gravel, and then 1 pair of winter.
Yeah,
which I just sold. So thank you.
He feels very validated.
Yeah. So mind your business, dude. Mind your business, dude. Mind your business. Got more shoes than you. So what? Like I literally have like a old, because it gets really hot here. Like I have some of the specialized Vint gravel or mountain bike race shoes. Those are super great. Like when it gets wet, they're just dry. I have some flat like mountain bike like actual shoes with cleats in them. Like I just have like a variety to like suit specific riding. I think when you're in different disciplines, like from gravel to cyclocross and mountain bike to criteriums to road bikes, you're gonna want like certain shoes that are lighter, nicer, cooler, more ventilation and all that good stuff. Like for my winter shoes, I love the lace ups and all that other stuff.
Wait, you need winter shoes in LA?
No. Well, I used to when I worked for Ossos. I lived in Utah.
Oh, okay.
And it would literally dump there. So
I have a quick, just offshoot question, just on the topic of shoes. Have you ever approached or breached the topic of designing a shoe? I feel like that's something that we don't see a ton of creativity in. Again, we're talking about literally everyone wearing white shoes. I mean, what is that? Is that like the next frontier of cycling design, or is that something you've thought about?
I think the cycling industry is still in safe mode until the
Mm-hmm.
people start to kind of break out and say, we want different stuff. Until they see that and put that in a report for a year, it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
easier to be safe, man. Marketing managers are, keyboard warriors and always trying to be politicians to keep their roles and jobs and kind of vet the industry. And I mean, not the vet the community to bring them into the industry. So I don't think that's going to happen too soon. But
Yeah.
I just got some really cool, funky, cool stuff from Physique. So I'm
Yeah.
championing them on like what they've done color wise and what they've done with some of the projects with their athletes and initiatives. Like sick. Like I don't actually have a problem for my caption overall or press release for OMAC. It would sound like it, but I'm not bitter in any way. It's just very, button pushy, maybe. Congratulations to those, or a nod to those, and kudos to those who are doing it right. They definitely get mentioned and talked about. But yeah.
Alonso, it's been great having you on the show. Is there anything you want to like promote or mention before we wrap it up?
Oh no! I mean, thanks for having me on to go over, the OMAC and to talk about myself and my experience in cycling. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. And if you guys want to support, it's actually only going to be up for about another 2 weeks. I'm not
Oh
sure
yeah.
when this podcast comes out, but it doesn't stay up long, and we kind of almost do like a limited number of the kits, and then we kind of move on to the next collection. I'm
Okay.
aiming for mid-November for another round of more winter and kind of long sleeve stuff kind of coming out. Some similar designs, maybe some new colorways, just to kind of suit that winter vibe. If you notice throughout the collection, there are some that are very muted to appease that, but then there's some that are really kind of on the bright side to make sure that there are some visibility for like some of the racer stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
But that, other than that, endocustom.com. It's up for a little bit. That's it. It's gone. It'll come back when it comes back. Not a brand, it's a project, people.
I was going to say, if our listeners want to check out the collection, you can go to endocustoms.com. You can also follow Alonso on Instagram at Alonso Tal, just his name, but we'll link it in the show notes. You can also check out Concept Team on Instagram at CNCPT team or on the website. You can find Endo Customs on Instagram. You guys know how to use Instagram. I don't know why we're spelling this out.
They're everywhere. Alonso's everywhere.
And we'll link it on on our Instagram. That's all. We really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and tell us more about this collection, but also the concept team, your aesthetic, and also trash some of the and also throw some trends under the bus. We love doing that on this podcast. So I'm certainly a fan of the collection. I'm glad you mentioned its limited release. It might motivate me to.
Oh yeah, we're going to the website right now. We're going right now.
Man, we're so canceled. This was a blast. Thank you for having me. Yeah, this was actually pretty cool.
Hey, what are you doing? I don't know, I'm just fucking tossing bikes in the river, bro.
It is now time for Into the Canal. Honestly, kind of my favorite segment. I would just do episodes of just canals and chameleons all day if we could. Jake, do you have something to canal or chameleon this week?
I do have something to chameleon now. As the weather is turning chilly, we all dust off. We all turn towards our Zwift accounts, or at least us in the Northern Hemisphere. And Zwift, as some of you may or may not care or know, is turning 10 years old this year, which is crazy. And it does crazy. Make me feel feelings. But what they're introducing with this Zwift 10-year anniversary is quite interesting. The one thing that I did want to call out, now they're introducing all sorts of weird racing stuff. And I mean, listen, shout outs to the hardcore Zwift racers in the chat who are blowing snot rockets at their basement walls and are mopping up after, Herculean efforts draining sweat on their floor. And, I'm not here for that. What I'm here for is this new term or this new product that Zwift has announced, where they're giving the opportunity for only the most brand loyal drop shop customers in the Zwift ecosystem. They'll be invited to purchase what Zwift is calling Halo bikes. Now, you might wonder, what is a Halo bike? What does that even mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, what a Halo bike means and what they're teasing is examples of this is the Pinarello Espada. Now, if you're not familiar with that bicycle, this is one of these just absolutely chaotically beautiful bikes from Pinarello, time trial bike, which Warren is grumbling about and might have some feelings towards, but from an aesthetic and a design angle is maybe one of the most iconic time trial bikes, I would say. And I mean, that can be a whole topic for another episode, but these Halo bikes, what they're doing to the Zwift community, of course, is it's furthering the exclusivity and the snobbery that we all go to Zwift for. If you're on your conventional giant TCR and you get passed by some guy on a Halo bike, on a Pinarello time trial bike going up whatever Zwift Mountain or Tempest Fujit or whatever the heck it's called, it's going to make you feel even worse. So that's really what we're here for. We're here for, additional digital snobbery. And it's just, these Halo bikes are going to create a whole nother level. And, what it's going to do is it's going to promote those folks who have already done like 1 million kilometers on Zwift to keep going. And whether they're spending their hard-earned dollars or not, or their Zwift drops, I don't even know what that is. I guess that's like an accumulation of your mileage or what have you. That's going to separate the true Zwift psychos from those of us who just like dabble in the winter. So yeah, that's my take.
I wasn't sure where you were going with this when you started, but I'm on board when you talked about just bringing elitism to Zwift. But
yeah,
when I saw the Halo bikes written out, what I thought it actually was going to be like the Tron bikes they have, but it would be like an angel halo floating above you or something, not like Halo as in like expensive ass bikes in the drop shop.
The Tron bike is just like a fake thing. It's like a goofy, like stupid Minecraft, like, gamer tag thing. And as someone who's not a gamer, like, excuse me for just, completely demolishing what you live for and love. But like Miguel Indurain, like in the 90s, like this thing with the matching, with the kit, like just the primary colors. Like, I think this bicycle is why we love the Lidl Trek kit so much.
Mm-hmm.
And why we love the team and the brand so much in general is because it's reminiscent of that, and primary colors, hard to screw up. So anyways, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm on the record as a Zwift hater. I do not use Zwift, so
you're not going to be there with me doing.
No,
I mean, yeah, I'm a trainer road guy. Let's be honest, but I might be a fast cat guy. I don't know.
See what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll be. I'm planning to be back on the Wahoo system over the winter.
Oh,
but,
the system.
And I feel like that's going to get shut down, and they're just going to absorb into Zwift.
So. Well, Wahoo just slashed a bunch of their MSRPs for their trainers, so maybe the system will be less of a system, but who knows?
I probably shouldn't say this, but I have a free tester account that a friend of the podcast gave to me a while ago that he no longer works there. So I'm kind of waiting for Wahoo to figure that out. This is probably a bad way of making that happen. But anyway.
Well, it's okay. The guy who's probably monitoring those tester accounts probably also got fired. So I think you're probably fine.
Yeah.
They're just going to exist.
Yeah. That's why System's still around, is there's no one on staff to delete it.
They just made System and it just keeps running. And one day the boss is going to go like, hey, that System thing we did, is that still happening? And someone's going to be like, oh, crap. Oh, no. And then get rid of it. But until then, keep doing your Pilates, everyone. Okay, what's yours, Warren? I got to hear your take.
This is, part of it may be controversial, but I don't think all of it will be. So I'm going to Canal broadly what I will call juicing Strava stats. And by that, I mean trying to inflate your stats that appear on Strava. So the basic ways that I've witnessed this season, I'll just give some examples, is ending your ride at the coffee stop. So say you're doing like an 80K ride with a coffee stop at the end, but the coffee stop is actually 5 kilometers from home. So you ride 75K, you're at the coffee stop, and then you end your ride on your Garmin, and then you make a separate ride to ride home from the coffee shop. I'm canaling that because likely, I think the reason that's being done is to increase the average speed, keep it higher, because when you soft pedal home from the coffee shop, you're not going to be as fast. You're going to have cafe legs. And I just think that's part of the ride. That's part of the ride.
Listen, I agree. I'm a big fan of just let that Garmin ride, man. You just keep that thing rolling. You could have an hour and a half stop. I'm not pressing no buttons on that thing, man. Just let the algorithm figure it out. If I could have 24.5 average, like let the haters, come for the comments,
Tony and I and Alex and I, we've talked about this before, I think, on the podcast, that average speed is kind of a dumb metric anyway, because it's affected by wind, the parkour, it's really, some of the hardest rides I've done are by average speed pretty slow. I mean, but even if you're doing it for your like average power, neutralized power, like what difference is an extra couple K from the coffee shop? Anyway, I don't know. I see it on Strava. Also, I don't want to see 5 kilometer rides in my Strava feed. It's annoying.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make those private right now. Not to get too off topic, but have you heard have you heard of these Strava mules that are happening?
Yes. And that was also going to be part of what I'm canaling is.
Okay.
Well, why don't you explain it for the listeners?
Okay. So I'll explain this. And this is something that, in theory you could have thought was a thing, but people have just gone too far. And I mean, this has become a real epidemic in, I'll call it our sister sport, but running, something that Warren and Tony love dearly and do quite often. We're finding that people are actually paying others to mule and run on their account. So they're giving them their access to their account, or they're giving them their phone or their device, and they're having other people do activities for them, which is just absolutely insane. And it makes me feel so uncomfortable, because the lack of vulnerability and oh my goodness, it's scary.
To me, it doesn't make any sense, because by doing that, you're basically committing to like never going on a group ride again. Because if you show up on a group ride after like having all these like super hard rides logged in your feed, and then you get dropped, people are going to be like, what's wrong with this person,
And I mean, I don't know if it's bled into the cycling world necessarily. I haven't seen a ton of reports there.
No, it has. There was a story, I think it's on road.cc, about it being a thing for cyclists as well.
Go to my Strava, because this will have probably already come out, but I'm in Montreal over the weekend for the big GP de Cycliste event, and I've paid Tadej Pogacar 35 Canadian dollars to do a training ride on the F1 circuit. So I'm really hoping for a couple PRs, and I'll report back on that.
I mean, this to me is even worse than like juicing your Strava stats, but in a way, I feel like it's kind of like the natural evolution, because it's just like, if you're not including your ride home from the cafe, I think you're sort of artificially inflating your average speed. So like, I mean, why even go on the ride when you can get somebody else to do it? Just go to the coffee shop, and then just ride home.
It's that back in my day, we just drove like kind of slow and recorded on Strava. Like, just, if you really want a Strava dope, like do it with a car. Duh.
I read, I think it was on the Escape Collective Discord, in response to this story, that this guy said he got in a cycling accident and his Strava was still running when he was in the ambulance, and he got the KOM on the climb of the hill leading to the hospital.
I think that should count. I think if you get put in an ambulance, you run that Strava.
Yeah, I wouldn't flag that.
No, exactly. And like, you get your heart rate data, your power data.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get whatever's coming through that IV. Let's go. The Fast Cat would never know. They would never know.
And one other thing I wanted to call out in terms of juicing, not just Strava, just your general ride strats. Now, I've heard, I don't know how true this is, but I've heard there's a local cyclist in Toronto who apparently has their Garmin autopause speed set to something like 20k an hour. So anytime they drop below that, the Garmin pauses, which also inflates their average speed. I don't quite understand how that works. I think what it means is, like, say you're coming to a stop at a red light. I don't know how that would average out.
Yeah,
with,
how
like,
does
the
that
distances.
affect? Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
It's
Maybe, you know
GPS
what?
data.
This person who allegedly does it is very particular about things they do cycling things with. So it's believable that they would do it. I don't know if it's true, if it's possible. I kind of want to change it just to see if it does inflate my average speeds. But if you do that, then frankly, you probably are doing the Strava Mule thing, because that is also kind of psychotic. If any of our listeners out there do that and you think you have a good reason for it, please tell us, because I'm dying to know. We're all amateur people. We're just doing stuff for fun. Like, what are we doing here?
And maybe that's like that. Is that the cycling equivalent of like Facetune, where you're like taking a selfie and you're just like, I'm just gonna like touch this up real quick. I'm just gonna just gonna round up my average speed to 32. Yeah, sure, it said 26, but like 32 is a good number.
That's actually a great analogy. It is like, a filter for your Strava ride, basically. Before we move on, I do feel compelled to note that our wonderful co-host Skyler, who also has been missing in action on the pod for a while, but was at the Attaquer ride, she has volunteered to not volunteered. She has offered her services as a Strava Mule. So if anyone out there is interested, Skyler is far and away the fastest of anyone involved with this podcast. She's out here winning crits and races in the US this year with her team. Anyway, she has offered her services as a Strava Mule. So if you're interested, send us a DM and we'll make the connect. Skyler is the official Cycling Fashion Week Strava Mule. All right, we are excited to bring back another favorite segment. We rate your bike for free. A refresher on this is people send us photos of their bikes, either by email at cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com or by Instagram, and we give a rating out of 10, and that's pretty much it. So it's been a bit since we've rated one, but we do have, as we keep mentioning, a bit of a backlog. Today we are going to do a submission from a listener named Alejandro. He says, "Hey guys, haha, would you mind rating my CAD? It's 2013 Dura Ace Altegra Cork Power Meter." Now, I do want to call out one thing before I start describing this. This is actually the exact same colorway of the CAD 10 that was my first proper road bike. My first real road bike was actually a steel Kona, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, my first proper road bike was a CAD 10 in this colorway. So as he said, it's from around 2013. Cannondale CAD 10. It's black and silver with this like 3-word Cannondale thing wrapped around the down tube. You got the 10 across the top tube that's creating a sort of color block effect with silver on the left, black on the right. You got the 10 on the fork, CAD on the seat tube. It's a nice paint job. I actually I always kind of liked it. It's a little loud for nowadays, but of its time, it was, I would say, pretty appropriate. I'm going to describe what I can from the one photo Alejandro provided with us. And this is just an aside. First of all, please send us your bike to rate, but also when you do, please provide multiple photos, close-ups of the group set, and bar tape and saddle and stuff would be very helpful, because sometimes
you say Durace, but the res ain't high enough. I ain't corroborating that, but hey,
we're taking your word for it. That's Durace. I do see the Cork power meter on there, so that's true. But yeah, it's hard to tell what the derailleur is there. We can't tell if he's got like an oversized pulley wheel or anything. Anyway, so this bike, as we mentioned, CAD 10, so it's aluminum. It's rim brake. He's got a set of what looks to be carbon wheels, but I don't recognize the logos. In fact, I can't tell if they're logos, if they're worn. Are those like worn through Envy logos? I don't even know.
Honestly, if they were worn through Envy logos, that would be bars. That would be sick.
I honestly don't know what they are.
They are not. They are not that. This bike, like you said, though, Fantastic bike. I mean, great era. I mean, any rim brake bike is a win.
Yeah, well, so normally like a CAD or even a metal bike with like kind of traditional double triangle design is like an automatic 7. Now the problem is, and then we either add or subtract points based on certain things. So unfortunately, Alejandro, I'm going to start at 7 and work my way down. The reason for that is, first of all, your bottle that you have, a yellow bottle, is too big. It's definitely looks like a 700 mil, maybe even a liter. That's too big. As we've stated on the podcast before, it's 500 milliliter bottle or less is the only way to go.
What do you think about the color of it, though?
It's ugly.
It's ugly. Okay, because I
don't
feel
like
like
it.
we're into a high vis bottle renaissance. Like people are trying to power crash the bottles.
Again, it's a bit hard to say. I actually think if you had 2 of them, it would look better. Something about a high vis bottle when there's only 1 bothers me, but when there's 2, it creates some symmetry. I'm not going to remove a point for the bottle. I just noting that I don't like it. The wheels, while they're like a decent depth, I'm gonna deduct a half or a full point, not a half point, for because I don't know what they are and the logos don't they don't match on the front and the back. I don't know what's going on. And then one thing that actually Jake pointed out, and I have to mention as I describe this, is he's got tan sidewalls, which is great, but the front and the rear are different shades of tan.
Nice try.
Which is, listen, I get it. Tires wear out different times, but you gotta keep the tan shade the same. On the top tube, there's either a sticker or a like crack in the top tube with paint, or not crack, sorry, but like chip paint, or as Jake said, it's a sticker covering a crack. I personally am not a fan of stickers on frames. I'm warming up to stickers on helmets, the sticker bombing helmets, but still not a big fan of stickers on frames. Anyway, so I'd probably knock off some pointage there. I will give him kudos on the seat post being silver and matching the silver of the CAD seat tube. I like that because I don't see that often when I see this colorway. He's got a rear light on, but the photo of the bike is in the middle of the daytime. So, like, listen, you're probably a dad and you want to be safe. I get it, but no, I'm anti daytime running lights. He's also got a saddlebag on there, which I can't tell. It kind of looks like I don't know that it is. It looks like the really old Velocolor saddlebag, like the tube shaped one, Jake, if you remember.
The roll?
No, not even the roll before that. Like the OG Velocolor saddlebag.
You got to give it points for being like tucked up in there. Like I respect the saddlebag that's cinched. So it's tidy.
Yeah, I do. So yeah, I've sort of like described it. And one thing I would also add is I do think the Quark power meter looks better than the normal Dura Ace crank, to be honest, because I'm not really a fan of the aesthetics of the Dura Ace crank. So I actually think, well, I'm not saying the Quark necessarily looks good, but it looks better. So yeah, I'm going to give this, it's tricky because I'm going to give it a 5.5. But the good news is there's a lot of easy wins you can make, Alejandro, to get this up back to a 7 or even higher. Match your sidewalls, either have 2 high vis bottles or different color, do something about that sticker on the top tube. Jake, what do you think about this bike?
Yeah, I mean, I'm up and down about it. Every glance I take and staring at that bicycle, I mean, there's a lot to love. One thing I do want to point out for the old heads is the externally routed cables. I got to give a big win to that. So I'm going to do the opposite of what Warren did. So Warren started at a 7 and went backwards. I'm going to start at a 5, and I'm going to be positive this time. I'm going to add. So we're starting at a 5, okay, which you might think is average at best, but the external cable routing right away gives it a full point. And I will give credit to what appears to be a tidily routed bicycle, although from this photo it's quite hard to tell, but it does not look like there's excessive cable. True. We all know, that can be a problem if you get a stock bicycle from a shop, and sometimes you might slam it and not touch the cables, and then you've got just a ton of excess cable. So looks very tidy, looks very intentional. I want to piggyback on that zip seat post. That silver matches with the aesthetic of the seat tube into the front. I would have preferred maybe a single color stem. There's something going on there that looks like a part spin stem, which, hey, I respect. We all love a part spin stem, but let's clean that up a little bit. Let's get it a little longer, 130, 140, I think, bare minimum, because it's a rim brake bike and it's probably too small. More we talk about that sticker, it looks to be either like a peach or an orange. And if this bicycle is being ridden in, say, Georgia, the peach state, or Florida, where they got oranges, I mean, there might be a story there. There might be some connection there. Mm-hmm. So
fair.
If our friend Alejandro here can submit a reason as to why he's just slapped the sticker on, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to give points for it, because otherwise it's just awful. Like, it's in the middle of that zero, and it's a bit funky. Yeah, I agree on the tires. I mean, if you're doing like 1,000K a week and you're just running through tires, I'll give it some kudos there.
No,
because you're just riding a lot. But yeah, Warren says no, and the crank, I can live with the crank. I'm gonna go a solid 7. You know what? I have to say, I like this bike.
It's fair.
The rim brakes do it for me.
There's a lot of nostalgia attachment to this specific CAD 10 for me, as I said, because it was my first proper road bike. I had it for, I don't know, something like 5 years or something. And so I get that. But yeah, maybe that's why I'm reacting so harshly, is it hurts me to see it not done properly. But you did make a good point about the sticker. Like, if you're going to put stickers on your, God forbid, on your frame, like, do it right. Make it work with the paint job, or like, thoughtful about it.
You squint really hard and you might even think it's a low.
That is it for this week's episode of Cycling Fashion Week. Again, a massive thank you to Alonso Tal for coming on the show and telling us more about his history in the industry, about his new release with Endo Customs. Again, as we said, make sure to follow him on Instagram. Check out the collection on the Endo Customs website. And as always, you can submit your bike for us to rate, like we just did to Alejandro's CAD, and hopefully not too harshly. But you can always submit your bike either via email at cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com or through Instagram at cyclingfashionweek. As I said, please send us a few photos, and up close are really helpful, because, by the time they're in Instagram, they get squeezed and it's hard to see all the details, and you're shortchanging yourself and the rating you might get,
And maybe a story about why you put a sticker on the top tube.
That too, yeah. If you have like things like that, explain. It's great. And I'm going to also remind listeners that we still do accept listener submissions for Canals and Chameleons. We just haven't got one in a long time, and I don't think we've mentioned it. And that can be written, or you can send us an audio file, which we've played a few. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks to Jake again for popping in.
Thanks, Warren. That was great.
Yeah.
See you next time.